am Hannah Hasan. The work that I do in this community and other communities is about stories. It's about speaking our experiences. I do that through poetry and spoken word, through storytelling classes and events. And that is kind of what you're here for this afternoon. So the program that you're here to experience is called Intersections. It is a program that is sponsored by the wonderful organization Arts Plus. If you don't know Arts Plus, when you go home, Google and look at all of the amazing arts work that this organization does for our big old Mecklenburg County community. It is supported by the Reemprise Fund. Charlie Elbertson, I just have to shout him out, is an amazing innovator where funding and supporting projects like this are concerned. And we're here because of the help and support too of the wonderful Studio 345 program. And that is a program of Arts Plus. So shout out to all of the folks who come together to make things like this in our community possible. Yes. Intersections is really all about how we intersect. How I can be sharing community with this person over here. We come from totally different backgrounds. We don't know that much about each other, but we come together and start sharing our stories. I guarantee you will find the intersections of who we are and the way that we can connect and change and elevate and improve our communities together. So this is how it works. For 3 Fridays, yes, Friday afternoons. Anybody else really tired on Friday? It's every bit. It takes everything for me. And I love these classes, but it takes everything for me to log on the computer Friday afternoon at 4 something. Like, I'm going to be real with y'all. But we get on the computer, and a small group of adult community leaders and student community leaders get on and we share stories together. I walk them through a very easy process of pulling out their personal stories. They tell me their business through these stories. We share it with each other, and a little bit of magic happens. Our students understand the power of the adults who have chosen to lead in their communities. They see themselves in their stories. Our adult leaders understand the weight of what it means to take your story and use it out in the world and do something great with it. They get to bear witness to these really amazing young people. They get to see those young people being heart wide open, vulnerable, and it really is just a beautiful experience. For 3 Fridays, that's all. And then afterwards, we come here to this beautiful Black Box Theater on our west side of Charlotte, right up the street from a historically Black college in a neighborhood that maybe at times has been underinvested in, but we see the investment in this space, right? And we share stories. That's what we'll do here today. And then when all of this is over, I'll start a new group and we'll do the same thing. And then I'll do another group and we'll do the same thing. And then in the spring, we will invite all of you back, and we'll probably be across the street, upstairs, overlooking the city outside. And we'll invite some of these storytellers back, and some from the other 2 groups, and some from last year. And it's going to be an amazing show. Yeah. Okay? That's all of the details. That's everything you need to know. Today, you will experience 2 of our adult community leaders, 2 of our student leaders, me, and then 1 of our student leaders from a past cohort all share stories. Every time that we're together in our cohorts, we choose a theme. I choose a theme. Let's be clear. Because I see a theme emerge every time about like what that group is based on the stories that they share. This group just so happened to be a group full of people who identify as girls and women. And we know what happens when those groups get together. There's just a little bit of like unveiling of like the personal things sometimes, right? And I saw each time that we were together, these moments of like, oh, she's shedding this story of like who she is, of who she's growing into, of who she's becoming. And so I chose the theme, This is Who I Am. So you will hear stories shared today that are about that theme, This is Who I Am. And I hope that you will take a little bit away from this of like who you are and who you want to be in the community and how you will use your story to make this community a much better place. These are going to be inspiring. I heard somebody say before, get some tissues. You won't need them. Your heart's going to flutter, but I can't tell you how you're going to feel. We're going to keep going. All right, so if y'all ready for some stories, let me hear you say yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. No one wants to be the first, but I go with the flow. The flow is leading me to one of our students. She was the first one to get here. I'm throwing you that, so to be prepared. She's going to share a story about who she is. Come on in, family. We have seats over here. Yeah, mostly over here, I think. Will probably be better. Our very first storyteller is Marie. Y'all give it up for Marie.
The moment I knew I was supportive was when I was there for my mother when she needed me most. 2 years ago, almost 3, my mother and older brother walked into my room early on in the morning. I had woken up feeling odd, but I had no clue why. My mother and brother were crying, and that was when I knew something was wrong. It wasn't just in my head. They told me my grandmother had passed, my mother's mom. I was very close to her. I felt my chest become heavy. I felt shattered. It didn't feel real. It couldn't be. I didn't know what to do or say. I couldn't cry, but I wanted to. I was in shock. Then my mother told me we were leaving for Mexico the next day, and I had to pack. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know how long I'd be gone, what I would need, what was going to happen, really anything. It was the middle of my 7th grade year and my brother's sophomore year in college. And because of that, he couldn't go with us. All I could think was how I hadn't seen my grandmother in years, and the last time we had spoken was on my birthday, which had only been a week or so prior. I felt immense guilt. I felt like I should have done more, shown my love more, but I couldn't. The day we left for Mexico, my brother said goodbye and wished us well. I had learned we would be gone for nearly a month to help out our family. The last thing he said to me during our hug was, "Take care of Mom." That had already been my priority. I made sure to always carry tissues on me. I would sit next to her, hug her, and remind her how much I loved her and how much her mother loved her. I would ask if she ate, drank, rested. I spent the whole time making sure she was okay and tried to never let her see me cry. I wanted to protect her, be strong for her. I felt that she needed that stability in her life, and I wanted to provide that for her. I would grieve on my own time. I would have done anything to help her. No matter how lost and sad I felt, I was glad I was helping her, because now I choose to continue to honor my grandmother and her memory by telling stories, thinking about all the good she did in the world, wearing jewelry she gave me or inspired me to start wearing. And I'm already 15, but I plan to have a quince in honor of her.
Our last workshop was I had each person write down 3 I am statements. I am powerful, I am smart, about who they are, who they know themselves to be. And then from there, they wrote stories that affirmed that statement that they made about themselves. That was your story, right? What was that I am?
I am supportive.
I am supportive. Yes, you are. Yes. Thank you so much, Marie. Y'all give it up for her one more time. It takes so much courage to stand up here and share like parts of you with people you might know and love, and also strangers. So thank you all for creating the space for them to feel safe and comfortable doing that. Let's see. So one of our community leaders this time was the first person to say yes when I sent out the request. And they showed up every time in our workshops as, I believe, their most authentic self. And here's the thing that's interesting for me. I am oftentimes sitting in these classes with these people who are, you know, our community stars. They're working hard, like they're speaking all the time and all that other stuff. And then they get to listen to me tell them, no, more. Like, you know, like when they're used to people just being okay that they show up. And, you know, I will do that because, like, I want us to be able to pull out the most important parts of ourselves because our stories set all of us free. So she listened to me say no more a lot, and she gave more every time. So please give it up for a woman who has served our community in a leadership capacity as an elected official for many years and is now rerunning for office, our beautiful Miss LaWanna Mayfield.
So my 3 is I am bold, I am passionate, and Lord knows I'm outspoken. Some of you may know, some may hear this story for the first time. My full name is Clara LaWanna Slack Mayfield Stitt. Yes, all of it. There is a story behind my name. It's just not the story that you're going to hear today. When I was 13, my father was rushed to the hospital during the night as I slept. I never saw him again alive. Honestly, this haunted me for years, as my parents' room was directly across from mine, and I still, to this day, don't understand how I slept through paramedics being in our home and me not hearing any of the commotion. This was a hard transition because I was a daddy's girl. So much so that he couldn't go to the mailbox without me throwing on my shoes to go with him. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and the summers as a child, we would return to my birthplace of Louisiana, where he taught me fishing and hunting, until I was old enough to realize that I didn't want to hurt Bambi's family members. My mom tried hard to fill in the gaps, driving me to school, picking me up from school daily, until I convinced her to let me catch the bus with my friends, that I was big enough. We didn't talk about what happened to my dad or why I didn't visit him at the hospital prior to her and my grandmother having to make the decision to pull the plug and release him from life support. We, along with my siblings, were adjusting to a new normal. Then she became ill within a year or so. Cancer had been diagnosed. We didn't talk about the cancer as I watched her beautiful, curvy 5'4" frame slim down drastically to almost nothing. As I watched her beautiful, thick, long hair start to thin out. Before I knew it, she was also gone. So by 15, both of them had left me. Although I have siblings that I grew up with, there was a lot that I didn't know within my family dynamics. So by the age of 17, I was out on my own. I was mad at God. I was mad at the universe, the world, for what seemed like a very long time. Then, in 1988, I moved to Charlotte after a weekend visit with an ex, since I didn't feel I really had a reason to return back to Miami. Around 1992, I read an article in the local newspaper that volunteers were needed for a lesbian gay suicide hotline for their third shift. I signed up for the training and I started volunteering to be there for those who were in need during the late night hours, which for some, they felt the most alone. I didn't realize that decision would lead me to over 30 years of volunteering at every opportunity that presented itself to me, from housing advocacy of the homeless, immigration reform, at church, at Red Cross as a disaster service supervisor, on issues of access to equity in the African American community, or that I myself identified as LGBTQIA. That reality came much later. What I knew is that I was not filled with that anger that was with me for so long when I helped others. My volunteering led to many leadership roles in the community, many of those times as the only African American in the room or at the table. Let's fast forward to March of 2011. Sitting at a city council meeting, primary, 2011, Charlotte City Council was having primary races. I was then a member of the former Mecklenburg Political Action Committee, and we had a discussion about having one of our LGBT members in the community either run or help seek someone to run for office. Little did I know there was a meeting after the meeting. Some of us know how those meetings after the meetings go. So a dear friend of mine, Connie Vetter, some people may know her, local amazing attorney, reached out for us to have lunch, which was not uncommon. What was uncommon was our discussion over that meal. Connie slid over to me 2 pieces of paper. One said county commission, one said city council. Then she laid out why I should be the one to run. Evidently, those after meeting thoughts was that I should be that person. So at the same time, during that time, my commissioner was George Dunlap. And he had always been accessible to as my representative, so I wasn't going to challenge his seat. So I thought of city council, but I said I needed to speak to my then partner and her family, because they're natives to Charlotte and pretty well known in many circles in Charlotte. So I had heard so many horror stories of how family members were attacked by the media when out candidates ran. So after speaking with her and her family, they gave me their blessing. So I started a new journey of service. Honestly, not believing that I would beat a 4-term incumbent, yet the community came out and supported me and set me on a new path of service that allowed me to be Charlotte's first out-elected official and only the second Black female to be elected as a district representative. Charlotte allowed me 8 years to represent, educate, and grow District 3 and to work on the community issues that I once volunteered for. So I remember in November 2018, while sitting at the dais at a city council meeting, I introduced the term diverse price point housing. Some people say that's long, so if you say Barishnikov, you can say that. During the discussion, it was regarding a housing project that was going to be built of 231 apartment units between South Tryon and John Price Road. Now, this was one in a long line of many proposals which would create housing for those earning a higher income in our city in the form of rental, not home ownership. I saw the potential displacement impact because Mecklenburg County was preparing for the 2019 property reevaluation. And after an 8-year negative impact in working class communities due to that 2011 evaluation process, I had questions. I understood how the words affordable housing, always in the parentheses, creates fear in many communities and is used as a siren call in others. Understand this, creating diverse housing price points creates opportunities, not barriers. I believe that then, and I still do so now. So now I'm gonna ask for you to step with me, because as I started this story, I shared that I lost my father around 13 and a half. But what I did mention was that soon after I started working. I started working in my junior high school cafeteria as a cashier. I was learning bookkeeping, cashiering. So college was not on the forefront of my mind. So in 1993, I started college, taking a semester here or there, and continued to work. Fast forward to the season of me. We are now going through a pandemic. We have lost life. We have lost friends and family. We have had reflection. So I decided that in 2021, with only 4 or 5 classes finally left, I'm gonna choose me. So I enrolled at Central Piedmont Community College earlier this year to complete my associate's degree. in the morning, and I also decided to follow a dream that was sparked by my time on council and learn construction in the evenings. This is a new path of opportunities, of completion and experience, as I'm also continue to seek to serve my community unapologetically me.
And that's why we peel back those layers in our stories, because when we understand, I believe that we understand why you have been called to something, then we're able to work so fully in our mission. And then all of us are leading in our communities in the ways that make sense, not in the ways that are driven by our ego or anything else like that. And that was something that for me really stood out with Lawana's story. It was like really standing in the truth of her own story as to something that has led her to where she is now. Y'all give it up again for Lawana Mayfield. So for those friends who have joined us since we began, you are here for the Intersections program. We're doing just a small story share from our cohort of storytellers from our community. We have a group of student leaders and adult leaders who share stories together on a Friday, and then we come here. So you're hearing some of those stories today. Every time that we do these showcases, I invite like someone else from the community, because I want to spread the love a little bit and share stories in different ways. So I decided this time to reach back out to my other cohort. Actually, one of the very first students to participate in Intersections last year showed up to our big showcase last year and read this poem that knocked all of us out. I mean, you can tell stories through poetry. You should be telling stories through poetry, right? But anyway, I invited her back. So we're going to switch it up a little bit and ask her to come to the mic. Give it up for Mahala Rosen.
Yeah, so I was not a part of the most recent cohort, but to honor the theme of it, I would like to start by sharing 3 I am statements.
Yes.
They're all relevant to the piece that I'm about to share with you guys. The first one is I am created to create. I am always evolving, and I am navigating what it means to be present.
Ooh.
I'm gonna raise this. Maybe.
There we go.
Okay. This piece is called Progression of a Protege. The question asks, where do you imagine yourself in 5 years? This, with decorative modification for the sake of this creative piece, is the answer I gave them. In 5 years, I'm traveling through the States. I'm checking off as many of the 63 national parks as possible on some cross-country road trip. I've danced beneath midnight skies, illuminated by a disco ball moon to the choreography of fireflies. I've captured my 8th grade dream photo series of Zion and the stars. And I've played, along the way, many a musical show with my lover and his bass guitar. And sometime down the line, when we've had a good fill of the go, I'll find myself settled in Oregon, where I found a new sense of comfort cultivated in my own first home. And here I've grown a garden filled with lots of color and whimsy. And by now I've released my first independent album, and the art business, it's thriving. Busy, busy, busy. And if by this time you don't find me out there at some music show, concert jamming, I'm probably keeping it local and minimal with some occasional weekend poetry slamming. But the truth is, and here's the real answer, I don't even know where I will be tomorrow, let alone where I'll be in the next 5 years. Just this past year, I've been so consumed by an idea of who I could be that I haven't spent any time getting to know who I am. Stranger to myself, the future is an even stranger concept. Last year, I was mostly poet. The year before, I was mostly photographer, and the year before that, I spent a summer exploring the valleys and forest trails of Yellowstone and the coastlines of Canadian provinces. And by January of next year, I'll be a protege, connecting and collaborating under the mentorship of a musician, which I too hope to be. Every day I am an artist. Every day I am a creator. These are my truest traits, and they will always remain, but every day I change. Every interaction, I learn something new. Every opportunity, I evolve just a little bit more. And more recently, amidst all that I am learning, I am also unlearning. Patterns, habits, behaviors of a human heavily programmed by other people. And not a second of that has been easy. And a lot of it hurts, but from it, I've experienced some of the deepest moments of introspection that I've ever had. I've learned to listen and absorb. I take inspiration and influence rather than identity or imitation. No more reflections of what is modeled for me. And now, here I am, behind a mic again, telling you what I wish I'd told them. I don't know who I will be 5 minutes from now. I don't know who I will be tomorrow. I don't know who I'll be in a year, and I don't know who I will be in 5. Who I am gives me direction for where I go next, and I'd rather familiarize myself with the first part before I try to imagine the rest. And for a long time, I didn't realize how damn liberating that feels, and how beautiful it is. I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the music, for the sunshine, for the customer connections, for the creative collaborations, for the magic of loving and being loved by a musical partner and by a musical and abstract and empathetic soul. I'm here for the versions of myself I have yet to meet, the ones I will love and even the ones I might hate. It's all progression. Personal growth and evolution, my own creative revolution. And this is all I know for now, because I'm not that far ahead. I'm too busy learning to be here, learning to be present, learning who I can be, and allowing her to lead me where she may.
All right. Whew. We are sharing stories based on this theme of This Is Who I Am. I think we do a student leader next. Let's. It's so weird. Like, you know it's coming, right? You do understand I'm gonna call on you, and yet still here we are. But this is a student who, again, like when we had our classes together, everybody brings something different to the table, and I often enjoy like a really excited spirit. Someone who's willing to jump in and dive in, and that is who she is and was for us, and she's going to share with us today. Y'all give it up for Isabella.
All right, my script is tiny. So, my name is Isabella. My name is Isabella Beli Silva, and I think a lot of students can agree with me that school has been a roller coaster ride, to say the least. But this ride had in store for me something that 10-year-old me would have no words for. 10-year-old me who still believed in once upon a time and happily ever after. I go to an art school, which is coincidentally, I didn't know, across the street from here. And my major is musical theater. Broadway was making, or is still making, a big comeback this year. And a show that everyone is doing is All Together Now. My school was doing this show only for musical theater majors, seniors, and juniors. We were all guaranteed a solo, but we still had to audition. A quick rundown of this show. It's basically a mixtape of all different songs from various different Broadway shows. The day of the audition, I was extremely nervous. Even though we were all guaranteed a role, I was scared to make a fool of myself in front of my class. So, I got up there and I sung, and I started singing, "That's been gone, but it used to be mine. Oh, it used to be mine. She is messy, but she's kind. She is lonely most of the time. She is all of this mixed up and baked in a beautiful pie. She is gone, but she used to be mine." And after I was done singing, I calmly went back to my seat. But then I immediately ran to the bathroom. I cried for what felt like forever. And nobody noticed, which I was thankful for. One of my friends came into the bathroom asking what happened. I lied and said my mom had texted me saying that my pet hamster Lola had died. I don't have a pet hamster named Lola. I sat down in the stall, and after a while, I started to remember someone had said to me, in showbiz, for 1,000 no's, there will be a golden yes. So I sat back down in my classroom and watched everyone else sing. About 4 days later, my friend came up to me before math class and said, "Congratulations, Isabella." I must have looked extremely confused because she asked me if I had looked at the cast list. I forgot all about it, and to be honest, I was scared to look at it. She pulled out her phone and showed it to me. The finale for our show was supposed to be You Can't Stop the Beat from Hairspray. And I had gotten the lead role for our grand finale to our show.
Yes.
10-year-old me would have been jumping around the hallways, yelling, "Oh my gosh, I got Tracy, I got Tracy." And even though it is just a main role in one small song at the end of a small show, I was over the moon. That was probably one of the happiest times I have had in math class, and I absolutely despise math. So after I learned that I got that role, I gave it as much as I could. I learned that show forwards and backwards. I learned my part forwards and backwards. I worked very hard on the dance, and let me tell you, that dance was not easy. I was sweating after the first 3 numbers. And then the weekend of the show came. And I think I would say that hands down my best show was the 2 o'clock show. Because when on the first show, I was extremely nervous, as I am kind of right now. And, but on the second show, after the first show came, I put on my white and black checkered dress that my grandmother had made for me for the show. And I just felt like I was Tracy. Like I was that game changer who would stop at nothing to make things right, to make things just. So I got up on that stage and I sang. I sang with my heart, I sang with my soul, and I danced to like there was no tomorrow. And I had the greatest time of my life. The girl who was playing the other lead role in that song was amazing. The guy who was playing Seaweed was amazing, and my show partner, who was supposed to be my boyfriend, also did amazing. I had a great time, and after that show ended, my teacher came up to me after I said goodbye, I'll see you on Monday, and he hugged me, and he said, "I am so proud of you." And at that moment, I felt like I belonged. I am the only Latina in my musical theater class, made up of seniors and juniors. And at that moment, I was like, wow, I really can be part of showbiz if I try hard enough and I keep going. Just like that voice in my head said, that for 1,000 no's, there will be a golden yes. And even though that was a small golden yes, I really felt it that time. And as my song said, you can't stop the beat.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we see our actors, especially like for theater, for musicals, all those other things, we see them on stage and they've learned the stories of other folks and they give everything to those roles. And we don't often see who they are behind that. The experience of what it feels like to put yourself on a stage and possibly fail. To audition in front of your peers or people who you might respect and look up to. So it's really important for us to not only honor the artists by going to the shows and things of that nature, but I think you gave yourself a lot of honor by just sharing your story and your experience. Y'all give it up for Isabella one more time. So, speaking of the artist, we're going to bring to the stage the person who is the executive director of the Arts and Science Council here in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County. That's important for so many different reasons, but a lot of us in this room who are artists, who are affiliated with creative organizations, have benefited so much from the Arts and Science Council, and to know that we have the type of leader there who is willing to sign up for this kind of thing and come from behind the desk in front of the mic, big deal. Y'all give it up for Krista Terrell.
In position, plie, push off, turn, and finish. Those are the steps I would do when performing a pirouette, a movement in ballet that is about making one complete turn or a series of turns. You can also think of it as completing a full circle. When performing this movement, you have to be really, really focused. Choose your spot, whether it's a wall, an audience member, or even yourself in the mirror when practicing. And when you turn, your eyes should always land back on that spot, because if you don't, it will be really messy. For 7 years, I began my mornings at a ballet bar in a garage studio that was turned into a dance studio in Augusta, Georgia, which is my hometown. I was a student at John S. Davidson Fine Arts School. My dream was always to become a professional dancer, and the pinnacle of that journey would be being a member of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, or even Dance Theater of Harlem, but Ailey was number one. Ballet was the only thing that gave me peace and calm as I started my day. When I placed my hands on the bar, nothing else mattered. I was only focused on perfecting that technique. However, there was always one thing that remained present growing up studying ballet, and even building my career in the arts and cultural sector, and even today at times when I'm in certain settings. And that is about being the only, meaning the only person of color in the room. I do remember a year or two taking ballet. There was one person, but it was never consistent. It was always me, and I never liked that. And I remember how I would put so much pressure on myself to be excellent, to represent my Black community, and also break down those negative stereotypes that people have about Blacks and ballet. And just those false narratives that would always bubble up. But I'm grateful that I was supported in my ballet journey by my family, my friends, even my peers at school, and more importantly, my ballet teacher, Renee Williams-Toole, who is a white woman. She believed in me and encouraged me to soar. Knowing my love for Alvin Ailey, she even choreographed a piece for me to the music of Didn't My Lord Deliver Daniel from Revelations. And I even performed that piece at my high school graduation. Now remember, I did go to a performing arts school, so we did have performances at graduation. So while I do not have a career on stage as a professional dancer, I have built a career over the past 20 years working behind the scenes, helping people to connect with arts and cultural experiences. And I'm also doing that now as president of the Arts and Science Council, also known as ASC, where we believe that arts, culture, and creativity are critical to creating a sense of belonging for members of our community. But my beginning actually started at Arts Plus in 1999, when it was then called Community School of the Arts. And once again, I was the only person of color on the administrative team at that time. But here I am, 22 years later, sharing my story with all of you in a cohort of other women of color through a program that is presented by them. For me, that is a full circle moment, like the pirouette. In 2015, ASC began its journey to cultural equity and started examining its policies and practices to become a more equitable organization. We all knew it was a marathon and not a sprint, and that the intentionality of it was critical. So we began the work.
In the summer of 2019, ASC's board of directors approved a cultural equity statement. It was a way to further formalize the work that we had been doing over the years and making an internal commitment to our work and encourage more public accountability and transparency along our journey. Another major step was after the day that the board approved the statement, they all collectively agreed that if we are approving this statement and committed to doing this even more, we have to report on our progress to the community. And I thought to myself, like, okay, y'all are really serious about this, and I'm here for all of it. I was really, really proud of them. In the summer of 2020, in the height of COVID, I was tasked to lead ASC's inaugural Cultural Equity Report. I enjoyed working with members of our team, which created the Cultural Equity Work Group that still works today, and we created that report. But as we got started, we all collectively said it was really important not to do this the Charlotte way. And to that, for me, is just talking about the new and shiny and great things that we were doing. It was really important that we go back in history to look at the data that told the stories of our inequities, to tell the truth. Not so much also about our past and the work that we had been doing, again, over the past 6 years. Again, we started this work in 2015 on our equity journey. The process was long, hard, and very overwhelming. I was even told once, like, maybe you should soften it a bit so that you won't make people upset. Well, I'm not here to make people feel comfortable. I'm here to tell the truth. And one of my favorite quotes is by John Meacham, who says, history is not a GPS, but a diagnostic guide. I knew the report would make some people uncomfortable and upset. But again, that's not my role. I'm not here for that. I'm here to tell the truth. And the report is a tool to help people understand history and what needs to happen to make change. I stood firmly in ASC's data and also as a leader of the report. The day it was published in February of 2021, I felt liberated, and I believe a lot of people on our team did as well. While it did indeed make people feel uncomfortable and upset, which we knew that again, and I directly heard feedback on that, and many of the comments were quite disturbing to me, but that's their issue, not mine. We also received praise for the report. What it reaffirmed to me is that I am honest and I am enough, and that I led the team in doing the right thing. And another thing that reaffirmed was that I received a message from an executive via email that said, "It is quite refreshing to read as one is not going to find too many anchor nonprofit organizations willing to expose its complicity in contributing to the systemic challenges that continue to play out in our city. Thank you for that." Full circle moment. It was a full circle moment for me because I had seen the inequities, and now that was publicly shared with the community. Again, I've been at ASCU for almost 20 years. While we are holding ourselves accountable to the community, while we are holding ourselves accountable at ASC, we're also having the opportunity for the community to hold us accountable in the work that we said that we are going to do. And we want to ensure that everyone has the resources that they need so that they can move along together, because that is what equity is all about. I have enjoyed my series of pirouettes and full circle moments in my life. It is a full circle moment for me that I grew up with a poster of North Carolina Dance Theater on my wall, now Charlotte Ballet, meta, on my bedroom wall in Augusta. And as an adult, I have been working at an organization for nearly 20 years that funds them. It is a full circle moment that I became friends with April Berry, who is a principal dancer of Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, who taught me the Dunham technique and movements from Revelations when she was the education director at Charlotte Ballet. It is a full circle moment for me that I'm the second Black woman in 20 years leading an organization that is focused on achieving cultural equity. And for me, my experience of being up and growing up the only just pushes me every day to make that change for others. My life is a series of full circle moments. While I am navigating many challenges today, I am continuing to dance through it all. In position, plie, push off, turn, and finish.
What was so powerful, among many things, about her story to me is that I have had the pleasure of witnessing her, a fierce leader in our community. Like, Krista, like, when you've been in the room with her, you know it. Like, she's not backing down, right? And she's a ballerina? Like, they just be out here challenging everything you think you know about people. And that is beautiful. And also, I just want to point out, like, again, this program is intersections. It's about many different things, and it's finding ourselves in each other. And it never connected to me, because I've heard at least some portion of all of these stories. Krista, you are a former student of a school of the arts, and you're sitting right beside Isabella. Like, you made that connection, right? I didn't, right? There's all these intersections that also, it didn't dawn on me that all the participants were women of color. Okay. So the program is doing what it needs to do, because we're making the connections and how that works and all those good things. I'm gonna close us out with a piece today. I was driving in the car a little while ago and thinking about just some mountains that I had ahead of me of things I needed to get done. And an I am statement that I have been reinforcing a lot lately for myself is I can do difficult things. Yeah. And I was driving in the car a while ago, and I was reminded of a moment that I had a few years, it's more than a few years ago. I'm in my late 30s now, like, let's be clear. But it was when I was in college in Greensboro, North Carolina. I decided that I wanted to go and get my nose pierced. And so I went with my sisters and sat down in the chair. I had been prepared by people that when the little thing goes in your nose, there'll be a quick jolt of pain, and it'll pull a tear out of your eye. But after that, you're fine. You're good to go. And so I was clenching my fist, and I was ready for the jolt of pain. And he sits me down, and he has black gloves on, and he does and the tear definitely came, and it was painful, but then he just keeps going, pulling this needle or whatever it was in and out. And I looked at my sister Khadijah's face. Khadijah is a lighter skinned version of me. There was no color. The melanin left her skin. She looked like she had seen a ghost. And I looked at his hands. He had these black gloves. And there was my red. It was the reddest, the most red color of red I've ever seen, blood coming down his hands. And I looked at him like, what in the is going on? And he said, you've got thick skin. I've never pierced a black nose before. Oh. And I didn't realize y'all's skin was this thick. And so as I was driving in my car, I was reminded of that story. As I was thinking about being a girl who can do tough things. I then wrote this poem. To the girls like me with thick skin, those who aren't easily pierced, built kind of different, to those who show up extra strong, with more tenacity than most can handle, not the kind to go along just to get along, to the girls like me, who have been extra all their lives, who show up before they even show up, who walk through doors with their spirit held high, with their esteem intact, with their self-love on overdrive, with their hearts on their sleeves and their family on their back, their community on their back, to the girls like me who never look back. Because she's got a future to get to, a world to change, a life to live with purpose and passion, a reputation to maintain, to the girls like me who have been told all of their lives to pipe down, calm down, it's not that serious, open up, smile a little more, be less angry, a little less mysterious, you're doing too much, it's not that big of a deal, to the girls like me who feel all of the feels. Say all of the things, have all of the opinions, yet somehow find the space to create love and build trust, make the most difficult of decisions, fix the most challenging of issues, create the best and most beautiful out of the least, raise families and other generations, and who are there for others in their moments of need. To the girls like me who aren't easily pierced, with skin thicker than most could have ever imagined. To the girls who lead with purpose, who give with passion, who are first on the scene and volunteer for the action. Those who are unapologetically amazing, unabashedly great, unforgettable and formidable. To the girls who build and create, sow and cultivate, nourish and invest. To the girls like me who know who they are and won't stop until they are their very best. Yes. Top of the line, that chick, the one they might not ever be able to handle, but they will never, ever, ever forget. That's right. I hope that you will always be the type of girl who is impossible to forget. And as you are making the moves that no one saw coming, I hope you'll find freedom in your tenacity and you'll realize that these are the best parts of being a woman. Being open and outspoken, fierce and free. Cheers to the girls who aren't easily pierced. Here's to the girls like me. Thank you to all of the amazing girls, women, humans who showed up for this cohort of intersections. Everything was beautiful. It was exactly as it needed and was supposed to be. Thank you to everyone in the audience who showed up to hear and bear witness to these stories, to poetry, to a little bit of singing. Listen, like it takes a community to raise stories, right? And I believe, I keep saying it and I'm going to stand in it firm, Charlotte will be a city that moves because of our stories, because we give freely of them, because we use them to legislate and lead organizations and create the change that we need. This is a program that was brought to you by myself and by the beautiful people at Arts Plus. Please give it up for Devlin McNeil, the Executive Director of Arts Plus. We share and show love to Charlie Elberson with the Reemprise Fund. Thank you so much to everyone from the Arts Plus team and from the Studio 345 team. We could not do this as a community without you all. We will be here again. If you did not register online for a ticket, please make sure we capture your email address before we leave. Come back. Our next cohort, it's going to be really amazing. This one was really amazing too. This one will be really, really amazing as well. And then we'll have a third one. And then in the spring, we're going to put on, we'll be in a beautiful place and share beautiful stories. And it's open to you all. All you got to do is come and show up. If you're interested in participating in intersections as either a student leader or an adult community leader, also, please indicate that there's a sign up list out there, right? Or there's a sign in for the email list. We'll also put an asterisk beside your name that you want to participate. Okay? Are there any other things that I'm forgetting before we exit stage left? Thank you all for coming out today. We really appreciate you. Please get home safe. We will see you next time. Thank you.